side you see going live.
Okay, so I understand that we have come back from our break, and we are starting the second part of our conference today. And we are starting now. We have talked about the European perspective. We have talked about the Baltic Sea region perspective. Now we are coming back, I would say, to both in a way. We would be talking from the macro-regional perspective, that is perspective of the EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region, and we have the pleasure to have with us Mr. Simon Sterman, who is head of the National Coordinators Group within European Union Strategy for the Baltic Sea region. In this part, we will have your presentation, and then after that, we are expecting input from the youth. So we understand that there will be an interesting dialogue out of that, and we are looking forward to some expectations from them. And we will also probably have, again, Mr. Pyryniemi, but we will confirm that later on. So, Simon, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much, and welcome from Berlin here to the whole on these things. Or I will just give an introduction like this. We last year up into Gdansk, and thank you very much. It was an excellent USBSR annual forum there, where we could really see the added value of interaction, getting to know each other, seeing the other person in person. Nevertheless, we now see very actively that we need to be digital. Everybody, and this is something where the youth involvement is very, very much needed. And I'll just refer back to what Mr. Sergey actually said. We need to get more youth involvement, and at the CBSS level, we have a very active youth platform, and the lecture that indicated it, and it's already before pre-corona time. So we were asked to be more digital, we were asked to engage youth, and they asked actively to be to having a platform receiving it. And we as organizations, we as national, regional, multinational organizations really need to learn from them, because we want to remain and stay relevant. The question is, I gave a few slides and presentations to you, Martin. Will you share them, or will I just walk through a bit of what I wanted to say within our teams?
Okay, maybe please try to share it. If it doesn't work, we will help.
Yeah, maybe you could share, because I will need to.
Okay,
I will just walk you through.
We will try to share it.
First, I would quickly want to. Yeah, but it's no problem actually. I will would quickly like to discuss a bit our priorities that we have within the German presidency of the USBSR, and then secondly, walk you through a bit what is new within the new action plan 2020. So we have 4 priorities identified for the year 2020 and 2021, which are the new governance structure, the capacity building, the USBSR action plan within all of our policy areas, and the coordination with the other macro-regional strategies of the EU. And there, I'm very, very welcoming that we have the inputs already from our colleagues from the EU, Mr. Poppins, which is very, very helpful for us. So what do we want to do? For the last 10 years already, the USBSR just had its 10th anniversary. We want to break down our policy efforts on a European level and give them back, or break them down to regional, local, and the national level. And that's what Sergey already mentioned before. We need to engage better and engage more, and therefore the cooperation between all formats are absolutely necessary, and only in a common effort we can engage. So we thought for our governance structure within the USBSR, we need to be as a complete strategy relevant and directed to the future. So we thought already 2018, 2019, how can we change our update, our new action plan to the direction? And there is the problems that we saw in our communication strategies, in our cooperation, in our collaboration, that needs changing. So we would like to establish a new Baltic Sea strategy, not as anything like a secretariat or something, but which is more helping us to move into a new direction. And Sergei mentioned before, we need to go a bit more private-public partnership within the region. I think it is important to have a single phone number to call somebody from universities, new stakeholders within the region that can tell us. I have a very interesting project in, for instance, demining the Baltic Sea area or transportation, bioeconomy. Who do I call? I'm a very good starter, very fresh and new. I need to have a single phone number, and that's something that we, with a few other things, would really like to achieve through that very spectrum that we're doing. Secondly, capacity building. I will come to that a bit later as well, but we would like to have more alignment of funding. Mr. Poppins already said we need to get more integration within the EU and its member states. Let's tap into new funds. Let's coordinate among all of the member states and with our neighboring countries. Where can we align our strategic aims in our actions on the ground that we are doing? And we very much need to adhere to our youth strategies, but I will come to that a bit later. And I hope that we will get a very good discussion as well with our youth later on this one. Thirdly, the new action plan, we need to be relevant for the future. And what we envisage within the new action plan, not only would we shorten it, but we would like to have a better coordination as a German presidency with the policy area coordinators, with all stakeholders that are engaged. And in the last year and a half, 18 months, we were very much engaged within the member states to decide on where should we go, what should we do. But now we would like to reach out again more, have input from experts in those policy areas, but as well from other regions. So actually what we're doing here, spreading the news, getting in touch with our regional actors is important for us as a presidency, because we only can act together if we want to achieve something prospectively for the next 5 to 10 years. And we always would like to engage in as well are how do we communicate our flagship projects. Maybe we can discuss that a bit later, but on a strategic level, we go to that one. Fourth priority, better engagement and rolling in with the other macro regional strategies. We as USBSR are very unique because we only have member states of the EU within our group of countries. Other member states have new accession stage or have a bit of a different setup. They learned a lot from us, but we would like to learn from them as well. Likewise, we would like to learn from the Russian Federation, Norway, Iceland. How can we integrate our projects better? Because the strategic overall objectives that we're discussing, climate change, youth engagement, sustainable development goals, all of these don't stop at the borders of the European Union, of any of our member states, but just looking at the Baltic Sea itself, we have a common interest in really riding the process, doing progress, having that in a very innovative way. And likewise, we need to see that we need to plan for the next MFF period, which is 7 years. And that's a very distinct and difficult task to do, because COVID and Corona just showed us within a couple of weeks we are in a completely different world, and we need to adapt to that, but we need to make sure that we are engaged and prepared for a longer period of time than we are having within our yearly annual budgets. Those two are our priorities that I quickly wanted to run you through. For the new EUSBSR Action Plan 2020, we hope, together with the Regio and the staff working document, that we will have everything ready or like an agreed version by the end of this year in November. That's the last information that I have. Nevertheless, the very basic and groundwork that we did are fixed and safe, and I think the efforts that we did are very, very good, and with due reason, because we wanted to be relevant for the next couple of years. An important part there is climate change, and Mr. Sirk already mentioned in the very introductory speech that 84% of all European citizens see climate change as a big threat to our future well-being in life. Same for the protection of our environments. So we upgraded climate as a important topic and included it into each and every policy area, which we think is the case in our societies. We need to engage people, we need to be attractive, and we need to be innovative within each policy area and work with climate. Same goes for digitalization, sustainable development goals. So we tried in the new action plan to really align what we are doing in the Baltic Sea region with the bigger EU strategies. Smart and innovative Europe. That's all parts where we want to get more into our embedding efforts, tapping into the bigger funds, and really giving our implementers, which are members of the BSSSC or universities or other stakeholders in the region, and really get aligned with space. So I very much welcome the previous speakers. We did our action plan a bit more different from the last one. We did it more concise because it was a too long document for newcomers to really read. We wanted to promote the EUSBSR action plan now with a greater group of stakeholders, BSSSC, CBSS, UBC, all of important partners who really need to be taken on board, and that's something that we really want to take serious and need to take serious as well. Youth is another word that we would like to engage better through these partners. Same with DG Regio and the European Commission. We need to be more active in getting all of our flagships on board, all of our stakeholders on European level on board, to be again relevant for the next and I just see if you go back one slide, I just made a few points again on the policy areas. What we changed, we tightened our indicators. And there were a lot of questions from stakeholders and partners within the process that we went through, and after now having a draft EUSBSR action plan. How do we measure our indicators? Who do we really integrate within our task? We are now making sure, or try to make sure, that we are easier to understand and give a better playbook actually for everybody who would like to get engaged and like to continue to get engaged into the EUSBSR with clear indicators, but that we need to be able to be relevant for 7 years. And within our climate action and climate policy, we really wanted to set a sign as well to our ministries within the member states, to the general public, but as well to all of the policy areas, that this is a topic that people want to have taken on board and that we need to adhere to. So it's very much people-to-people contact. How do we break down our big speeches that Mrs. von der Leyen 2 weeks ago had in the European Parliament and bring it to the people? We have, as people, as member states, the same common goals. SSSC and all of the members definitely say we need to make it workable, and therefore the new ESPS action plan is, in my point of view, a very good first step towards this implementation. The last slide quickly shows our horizontal actions. I included this here because we had a lot of questions from stakeholders concerning those actions and those HA Neighbour, HA Climate, HA Capacity in it. Just to again make very sure for everyone, we are consolidating some of these tasks in the Baltic Sea Strategy Plan. HA Capacity, HA Neighbour. We would like to get on a more strategic level, on a better functioning level, not saying that it didn't really work out previously, but we need to adapt to our new digital agenda, to our new digital world, to our process of communicating within our member states, within our neighboring countries, but as well be flexible enough and have the manpower to really fulfill the tasks of getting stakeholders engaged. Because that's something that is absolutely important to us. HA capacity is the same. We need to analyze from within what is needed by our experts, by the policy area, within our working together with the member states and our neighboring countries. That's something that we deem important, and this is why we actually went those steps and need you and everybody who's engaged to really make it happen. And we are very committed as a group of national coordinators, member states, to put this action plan together with the European Union, the European Commission, and the other market strategies, our neighboring countries, and everybody involved in the regions into action. And I think we are on a good step, and let's start doing it. I'm happy for questions and some input, critical input from our youth group as well, and I'm looking forward to many questions and the discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry, but your last words were cut because of your connection, I guess.
Sorry for talking about our excellent connection. The new digital world actually started with getting into this world. We as organizations really need to adapt to that as well. And our Wi-Fi here just shows that we in the Federal Foreign Office need to do the same. I'm very interested in questions and answers, being engaged with our youth platform, with the people who prepared something. Please ask critical questions, because I think in the last years that really has shown that we need talking about climate. To have your input, let's discuss, and I'm happy to answer questions. I hope I was not cut this time.
Yeah. I'm sorry if I slipped any slides. It was quite challenging to to change the slides in the presentation. So I'm giving the floor back to Ms. Wróblewska. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Simon. It was very informative. And my suggestion now is we are also having some rearrangements here, as you may see, technically wise. And my suggestion now is that we will invite first Fiona Morrison, who is representative of our youth, to take the floor and comment possibly and address you from the point of view of the younger generation, even than we and you, etc. are. And then I hope there will be questions from the floor, and we also have some questions, so I'm looking forward to the good discussion. And while introducing Fiona, I will maybe say a few more words about her. She's already with us. Hello, and Fiona is 17 years old, as she informed me, and she has been living, she's from Great Britain, and she's now living in Germany for 3 years. She loves politics, as she says, which is not very frequent, I would think, among young people. But here we have a person interested in that. She has been heavily involved in programs such as Model European Parliament on a regional, national, and international level. She's planning to study catastrophe management, something very proper, I would say, for the digital world and pandemics. And probably not only. So we need somebody to manage whatever happens to us on the negative side. And she wants the younger generation to have a stronger influence and stronger voice. And now it's your turn, Fiona, to speak on behalf of the Baltic Sea youth, or definitely BSSSC youth. And I'd like to thank you and the newly elected youth BSSSC board member, which is Julia Orluk, for making it possible. And Fiona, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me? Okay, perfect. Then I will share my presentation. Thank you to Simon for the presentation. Which I can basically use as an introduction to mine. I'm going to share my screen now and go to my PowerPoint. If it will work, I know that you guys have my presentation. This one, yes. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we are.
Yes. Perfect. Okay. So last week we had the youth conference, and it was 3 days of really interesting discussion. We also all each individually came from our hubs in different cities. I was working in the Potsdam hub. And we decided to look at the Baltic Sea Action Plan, also the EUS BSR. And it was at first a lot of information, and I'll come to that later. And overall, we really thought, especially now that it is 44 points instead of the many more it was before, that it is far more concrete and has a lot of really direct answers to some really interesting questions. But we did come up with some ideas of our own. And so we first looked at the slogan, the catchphrase, or the message: save the sea, increase prosperity, and connect the region. And obviously, I think it is clear to everyone that these three ideas, climate, prosperity, and connecting the region through culture, for example, that they all hang together, and that by improving one, you will improve the others, and therefore it's important to work on all three at the same time. In our cultural panel last week, we did have a brief ideas session, and we came up with the idea for climate to have Baltic City green spaces, which will be talked about later in the culture discussion. But a brief summary of these would be, for example, like we have in Germany, that many rooftops are covered with plants that are very good for changing CO2. And yeah, so that will be discussed later, but I was asked to bring it in. Then we also talked about culture and about connecting the region through a Baltic identity and how this should have more focus on it, especially coming from the Potsdam hub. Before we started this project, didn't know much about the project. We didn't know much about what it meant. We didn't even know that in my region, in Brandenburg, we were able to be involved, and therefore it's important to us that this sense of identity is redefined and better connected. And for that, we also talked in the culture panel, and it will be discussed later, about the idea of having possibly Baltic culture cities and Baltic culture projects. I know that the idea of letter exchanges, culture exhibitions like we currently have in my city of Potsdam to do with German unity. Many of these ideas came up and they will be further discussed later. I was asked to add these. And obviously we have come to the conclusion that any goal can be achieved far more efficiently through cooperation. I don't think that that concept needs any more explanation. Then we talked about what we as the youth want in the Baltic region. And we thought that, especially through the pandemic, it has become very clear that the youth faces a lot of socio-economic challenges, like we discussed this morning, the concept of digitalization problems, education, and the pandemic really has affected a lot of people. We then thought that a more public view of the Baltic Sea Action Plan, or the BSSSC, as a whole would be necessary due to us coming into the hub with really not many ideas on what it was, what it meant, and now that we're informed, we think that it's incredibly amazing and it's a project that needs to be more into the public eye. Like I said, we want a creation of a deeper Baltic region spirit, and we want to connect this Baltic region spirit with heightened positivity in regards to the EU, because we do believe that that is a very important part of this. And in Germany, we come from overall quite an EU-friendly country, but attitudes towards the EU vary within the area, and we think that overall heightening this positivity can be very beneficial for future work. We also, in general, just want a safe and secure future. We want explicit action against any human rights violations, threats to democracy, or anything to that degree within the Baltic region. And these were the core points of what the youth commented and wanted after discussing the Baltic Sea Action Plan and thinking about what we still want resolved. And then we talked about the ideas we have for the EU SBSR. I know that my good friend now, Julia, the board member, will later be talking, or tomorrow be talking, I'm not sure, about the youth working groups, because we did come to the conclusion that we want more room for youth involvement in the strategy. We were talking, or I was listening earlier to Mr. Petrovic, and he had good things to say about youth involvement, and especially how we have to be ambitious, but also reflect on how realistic our aims are. And we do think that there is a really, really good amount of space for the youth in the program already, but we want to make this space more efficient, more defined, and we want to give it more power. We did come up with the idea of possible sub-regional parliaments to make the ideas of the plan a reality, and bring it closer to the people. We looked into how the current actions are being put into motion, with whom things are being cooperated, and there are so many networks for it. And we came up with, the concept of possibly bringing this huge network into smaller, defined groups, which are more accessible, more known, and have a concrete place in Baltic society. We also did think that we don't just want to be put into certain areas or topics. The youth should be allowed to sit at every table on any theme. We know that the EU SBSR has 13 areas of topics, and we have later 4 parallel panels, and we're really happy that we got to talk on these 4 topics, but I know that a lot of passion would also go into other topics in the EU BSR from the youth, and so we would like to have these topics open to us as well. Something that came up last week was the amount of networks and the networking within the Baltic Sea region, and it was actually Mrs. Valdesia who informed us of all of the networks that we have, and that there are so many. And then we decided that it would probably be far more efficient and actually lead to better networking if there was a simplification of the networks, so it isn't so overwhelming, because it's very easy to lose the overview. And direct communication, we decided, is the best form of communication, and so we were thinking of possibly reforming these communication networks within the Baltic Sea region. And like Simon, Mr. Sturman has already said, that it is a far more readable document than it used to be. We still think, as the youth, that we want also a simplified version of the EU SBSR for public understanding. So maybe just really condense the key points into a few pages in simple language, so that it's accessible to the public, because one of the topics that came up during our discussions was accessibility by the citizens, and we think that the accessibility would be improved by this. And we also, once looking at the 44 points of the action plan, felt that some details could be deepened on certain topics, most especially on the topic of education. It came up that certain ideas need to be deepened, obviously, within the framework that the EU offers for this. And overall, we really did like the EU SBSR, and we think that it offers a really good starting point. Well, it's not a starting point, it's already a few steps down the line, but these steps down the line offer us more steps down the line to create an even better plan with more involvement, better communication, and overall a better development of the message we want to send. And that is essentially the end of the presentation. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'm just reading that my internet was having delays, but I could not see that because I was in the presentation. I hope people still understood it, and that you could see the PowerPoint. And like Mr. Sturman said, the internet is clearly not one of Germany's, at least, strengths, and I hope it was still accessible for everyone.
Thank you very much, Fiona. It's true that we've been having some problems with the voice on your side, and I'm afraid it was a little bit difficult for the participants to listen to you, but on the other hand, you've had this perfect presentation, which I think made up for the problems, and it was very good to follow you and your speech there. There were many important points there, and maybe before I ask Simon to comment immediately, I will just respond to the issue of simplification of networks. I'm one of those persons who is of the opinion that it is very simple. There are networks on the governmental level, parliamentary level, regional level, city level, NGOs, culture, environment, and planning. So all the levels are cooperating. It doesn't take too much time to look at all those structures and understand them, and then we see that there is reason for them to be there. But I would definitely agree that it would be really helpful to simplify the language, to simplify the message, to make it more digestible, not just for the youth, but just for the public, because those who are in the network and who have been following the Baltic Sea Cooperation and the EU documents can understand what's there, or have the grasp of it. But for the other people, very often it is too demanding or too jargon-like to really try to follow. But that will be my quick reaction on my side. And now I would like to ask Simon if you have immediate response or reaction to what Fiona has said. Simon, can you hear us?
Fiona, thank you very much. Yes, I can hear you, and I just realized I unfortunately muted all of us for myself. So again, German, and we need to be more digital. Thank you very much. Excellent presentation. First of all, I think it's splendid and really good that young people get together and discuss those difficult documents that we actually prepare. And I fully agree. It is difficult to look through, go through, and it's not really something that we in our modern world want to look at. An 86-page document with a lot of action points and for policy areas. We have the same problem, but not only for the general public, but as well for dancing those important tasks and issues and points down for our bosses so that they can support us better in those points. And it's, as always, a bit not black or white. There's something in between, in the middle, and where we are very, very open for input. Personally, I wanted to say actually first, very good and excellent choice of your studies. I studied rescue engineering and catastrophe management, and think it's absolutely great. But that was outside the discussion. A few points. For the ideas that you guys had, for instance, for a new Baltic Sea Youth Parliament or something similar. We had the discussion within our house, and I only talk about the Federal Foreign Office and not the whole group of national coordinators now, about something similar where we said, yes, it's important to get you involved, but you will face the same problems as we have when discussing with young people from the region here, from BSSSC, etc. Why don't you do where you can be way more open, way more blunt in telling us this is how it should work, because it just seems to me as a more easy and more interactive and more cooperative way of bringing your wishes up front. And I think unfortunately the last Bornholm Declaration or the last meeting of the Ministers of Foreign Affairs was only digitally. However, people are trying to more and more engage young people to really voice their opinions, and 2020 shows us that it's absolutely needed for our future discussions. I just want to touch upon some of the simplified languages as well. I personally think, and we discussed this here as well, it's a very good idea, because I talked previously about breaking down EU policy and EU funds, bringing them to people where we actually need to have all of our regional partners engaged. And the language still is very bureaucratic, very on better. What I think now is from a European Union perspective, with our clear strategic goals, Green Deal, digitalization, like smart and innovative Europe, etc. We are on a better way to communicate what we really want, and in a second step with integrating more of what we want to achieve within our regions through macro-regional strategies. We are on a better way forward. Nevertheless, we again need to think about 7 years. So it's difficult if you look 7 years back. I don't know if I had a smartphone 7 years ago, but it's just the way we deal at European level. And we need you actually to help us changing ourselves. And possibly in future, you will sit at my place or somewhere in our member states and help us in implementing so. So thank you very much. I think I was again too long, and I already see that some people had other questions. Thank you, Fiona.
Thank you, Fiona. Do you have reaction to this, or will you be ready to answer questions which have appeared, as I understand?
Just a quick reply. Thank you very much for the dialogue. Yeah, it's always about what is possible, what is ambitious, what is realistic, and I think that
Fiona, excuse me, as it is very difficult to hear you, do you think it would be possible that you use only your audio and not video, and maybe it would be better? Sorry for doing that, but I think it would be better for all of us not to lose what you are saying. Mm-hmm. Now we cannot hear you.
Can you hear me better now?
Oh no. Mm-hmm. Wait. Could you please say something again?
Can
Hello?
you hear me?
Yeah, now we can hear you. Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah. Shall I just turn my camera off?
Okay. Something's unstable with your connection, basically, because you're being cut.
Okay, I will turn my camera off.
Yeah.
Is this better?
Yes, much better, actually.
Okay, that's good. So I just say thank you for the dialogue, and I think that it's important to find the middle ground between very, very ambitious ideas of youth and the realistic framework we have. And I think that we should try and find somewhere in between so that we find great answers for everyone that create a good future. Other than that, I am open to any questions that may have been asked. I know that Mr. Born asked a question in the chat a few minutes ago. Yes, I can answer this if that is still... Yeah, the question is, if I talk about the youth, what do I mean? And what do I mean concretely? And which age groups and educational channels and backgrounds am I referring to? And which channels of organization or of interest would be representative enough? And another question is the question of mobilization. Okay, that's quite a lot of things to unpack. I'll start with the first question of what I mean with youth. We actually had a very lively and fun discussion about youth last week when we were voting for a board member about being over 25. And I believe that the age of 25 is the good border for youth. I think 25 and under is youth, and up to 25. Because I don't think that you stop being a youth when you are 18. I definitely think you're still young when you're in the middle of your 20s, and probably for a while after that, but then you are probably definitely able to act in adult channels. I think when it comes to educational backgrounds, which ones I'm referring to, I am referring to every educational background. And this is an issue that we had talked about the accessibility and about inclusion. I'm very lucky to go to quite a prestigious school in my region. And it is because of this that I am able to participate in projects like this. I found this project through my school because we are on a high level, but I also have many friends who are interested in politics or would be interested in politics who live in areas where this might not be a possibility. So I think any educational background, whether you go to school or not, whether you have your A-levels or Abitur or anything similar like that or not, whether you're doing a practical education or a university education, I don't think that there should be any differentiation in involvement. And channels of organization which would be representative enough. This is definitely a channel of organization and interest. I am speaking as a youth right now. I feel very represented. I am able to take part in a conference with people from high up areas within the establishment. But I think that it is maybe important to have this involvement start on a low level, and a very good example for that would have been the hubs that we had 2 weeks ago now. They were very accessible, they were within the cities. We were allowed to bring our friends if we wanted to, anyone could get involved. And I think if we bring out the advertising for that, or really get those messages out there, come to this hub, we can have them every few months. This is what we can do. I think they are great, especially within cities. And I think that answers the question of mobilization as well. If you start at the ground, then it is easy to work up in little steps. You just have to make sure that the ground is on the ground floor and not up a flight of stairs. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Fiona. I hope, in spite of some problems, we did hear your responses well. I would like to, while waiting maybe for some other comments or questions, to both the speakers, and I see here a lot of words about your presentation. So thank you, Fiona, once again. It's been mentioned several times during today that the great and greater involvement of regional and local level is welcome, and that there are plans possibly to increase it. And I would like to ask to what extent the regional local level can hope for a bigger involvement in the governance of structures of the EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region. That would be a question to you, Simon. Maybe you could answer that. We for instance, in the BSSSC had this idea that it will be really important for us to have, for instance, an observer status on the meetings of the National Coordinators Group, in order to not only to be able to follow the documents which appear usually with some delay, and of course we do follow those documents, but to be a part of the discussion, because then you get a better grasp of the discussion and the feeling of where we are going. Do you think that it could be possible? Are there any other plans for the involvement of the local and regional level and the youth, for that matter, too?
Thank you very much. I think it's an important question, and I don't have a definite answer to that. We need to see it, I think, from two different angles. We want to have a better involved SBSR, and one feedback that we received from many regions in the last 18 months is we need to have better engagement at ministry level, because it does not help us that we, on a very local level, take up the tasks in a random country, Denmark, Sweden, Germany, and fulfill it and represent the government. like the ministerial or federal level. And therefore, we very actively put into the new ESBS action plan that ministries, line ministries, need to pull their weight. And I think that's an important first step to have regions who are engaging actively in the USBSR in other formats within the USBSR and to implement the new action plan. So I think that's a very first important precondition, because if we talk about let's get regions more involved, personally, I do not think that simply having a observer status of the BSSSC within the National Coordinator Group meetings helping the implementers of our project, which is at the local level, policy area level, to really get their voices on. Because again, you would need to get your round of coordination within all of the BSSSC countries. And I think that's an important task of each and every national coordinator to do so with the region of that country. And I think in most cases it works well. But we and I very much need to have the feedback of our regions, our federal states. I think we need to go rather this way than again enlarging the table, making it more difficult to have people like agreeing on a single line. And we saw in the last couple of months that some decisions that needed to be taken by member states together with the European Commission were not really easy to take, but we need to communicate them better throughout the regions, because the aims that we have are, I think, equal, be it European Union, member states, regions, municipalities. And I think that's, for us, the important message that we learned from the past year and that we would like to engage in better. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We cannot hear you now, Simon. I think, yes, I'm not sure whether everybody has heard the last sentence from Simon. I hope so. Thank you very much. It was on a positive note. However, I think we will still appreciate, as a representation of the regional level, to be a part of the governance and then be an additional channel to pass the information on, but definitely to have the feeling. And as you have mentioned, the national coordinators are in touch, at least I can say it, on how it is in Poland. We have very good communication with our representative in our Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and we feel very well informed from this level, and I hope it is so also in other countries. Now, we've been saying about the revision process of the Baltic Sea Strategy action plan, and that we are looking forward to the improvements and simplifications. And also you mentioned that what you have realized and what many people have realized, we might need one single telephone number to get in contact with. And I understand that here we are talking about this Baltic Sea strategy point to be established. Correct me if I'm wrong. And also when the strategy was announced, there was, and I think it was also true about all the macro-regional strategies, there was this very strong opinion, no new money or rule, no new money, no new institutions. Has it changed after the years of practice now? Is the direction we are going in slightly towards new institutions? Or how would you define the situation now?
Thank you very much. And I think that's an important question, like talking about the Baltic Sea strategy point for the three no's. Maybe the name is a bit misleading, having absolutely adhering. We as a group of national coordinators, very much make sure that we away from projects, and that's something which we have communicated with the Interreg Joint Program Committee and within all of our. There is no shift towards more governance, towards more funds being used for administration of things. Absolutely not. Secondly, we do not establish something that is a secretariat or similar like. We only want to have a institutional memory and continuation of plans. We see within our member states that we're dealing with ministries of foreign affairs, and there is quite a high turnover within all of the member states. So we need to have more continuity. If we see every 8th year to have as a president, a new chair, a new presidency, we need to look back, and we of course dip into our regions and our federal line ministries for information. We have a lot in our archives, but we need to have continuity towards our stakeholders as well. And that's something which we want to go. So we rather go from our projects that we're having and condensing some of the tasks into a more strategic point, which is obviously not only sitting in one city because it's a project. We have different project partners, hopefully, if it's going through, that then can have more the role of the continuity of our strategy for the next 7 years. And the project duration will be way shorter, and they will be under the control of the National Coordinator Group. But there is no way the 3 no's are being touched, because I think that's a fundamental thing in how we work together and how we would like to commonly get our strategic goals in place together with the regions. And 2 points I would like to add there. First of all, we have a gap year 2021. We will not, let's communicate, we'll have a few more tasks. There is no advantage for this very project in the process of the establishment of the Baltic Sea strategy point. That's something which is absolutely important to us as a presidency, to our trio presidency, Finland, Germany, and Lithuania, and it's important to the group of national coordinators and everybody else who's engaged to communicate that as well to our stakeholders. Let's Communicate doesn't have any advantage in the race for something as the Baltic Sea strategy point. I hope I answered the question sufficiently.
Thank you very much. Thank you also for mentioning Let's Communicate. BSSSC happens to be one of the associate partners there, and I've been involved in it in my double role too. And talking about communication, and also what we have been talking about within the Let's Communicate project, there has been a discussion whether we should just continue communicating the strategy among the stakeholders and those who are really involved in the implementation and management process, and maybe in some of the projects, or maybe we should also think about trying to promote strategy and inform about it the general public, people in the streets, and definitely to have more people on board with us and to have more people aware what's happening really and why macro-regional strategies are there and in which directions they are going, because that could open their minds more, I think, to cooperation and to be interested to enter into cooperation projects. How would you comment on this, please?
Thank you very much. I think it's first of all important to say with our communication strategy, we would like to, we are happy with Let's Communicate. They're doing very good work, but we would like to maybe move away further. And in the last years, DG Regio discussions about the strategies, we always saw that we, for instance, have different websites, not a single format that we're using with a single identity format, etc., where we think we might be able to approve. I will not be the one who is forcing somebody into something very specific and boxy, but I think it's useful to have a common understanding. I quickly need to go and get my charger. I will be back in 1 second.
While I would read out what Wolfgang has written, and he has written the following things. Regarding the involvement of the local and regional level, the focus should be on operational issues at policy area level and less on the strategic level. In my eyes, we need to show to the decision makers in our regions that the EU as BSR provides a concrete added value for the regional and macro-regional development. So this is in the chat. Thank you, Wolf. Maybe also there could be some comment on that later on, but continue now, Simon, please.
Yeah, sorry, like my battery, my charger just needed to be there because I only have 1% left. Sorry. I would just like to continue with answering your question. We need to make sure as well that we don't overburden Let's Communicate, our communication strategy. We only have a couple of people. We cannot be everywhere. I think the task for letting people know what is happening within the USBSR and within the EU is a common goal that we have throughout the region, from the European Commission, member states, region, and that's a common effort that we need to really address. It's nothing that we, as USBSR, can say we throw money at it, and then we have a few signs or a few people running around, and then everything is safe and sound. It's actually the other way around. People really need to feel that project that we are supporting or people that we bring together have an added value locally and regionally. And that's something that we as national coordinator cannot do just by ourselves, that you cannot do just by yourselves, but that we need to find a way to conclusively communicate with each other. And I just read Wolf's email comment here, and I think is correct. The heart of the USBSR is at the policy area level. That's something that we try to, as I try to express very much within the USBSR action plan. I know that some people read it differently. However, by trying to engage line ministries better and have a better backup of the local level by more governmental structures in terms of this is the way we would like to go in our climate or digitalization or whatever strategy. This is really backing up the local level where people then can engage each other more flexible and in a more coordinated and better way. It is difficult for us to say really where this new line will go through. However, the support for the policy area coordinators and the support for these very structures, we don't plan to change within, like when it comes to funding, etc. And I think that's very important for the people who work within those policy areas, but we need to engage more the connection from projects to processes to policies throughout the region, and that's something where, again, we need to have interaction between all areas. It's not an easy answer, it's definitely not an easy task, but it's something that we all need to engage on, and that will take time, again, which I think is a crucial part. Thank you, Wolf.
Thank you. I hope this... Yes, you added something? I hope it explains and is a response also to Wolf, and thank you, Wolf, for your comments. During your presentation, you mentioned that there is a need now and that the process has already started for all the macro-regional strategies to talk to each other more as if. Could you just share with us some of the conclusions that you have had when comparing the strategies or trying to bring them together? Is there anything, because, well, we from the Baltic Sea area naturally have been concentrating on the Baltic Sea strategy. Do you think that there should be something that we, as the regional level, should try to find in the other strategies?
Yes, there is. I think it's important that we talk to each other. One one example that our colleague from DG Radio gave was on a local level, we need to, in our embedding exercises, make sure that we can tap into some of the EU steered funds, for instance, for smart and innovative Europe, because a university from Helsinki or from Gdansk would maybe want to share a project with somebody in Portugal. So that's something where we need to a bit widen our scope. For the micro-regional strategies themselves, I think many strategies looked at the EUSBSR in recent years and for how can we implement what they are already having. And now we come to a phase where we see some of the communication platforms, some of the integration within the region is better focused in other macro-regional strategies. Politically as well, to some extent because they have non-EU member states as members within those macro-regional strategies, which gives them more attention within their political cause. But we compared some or all of the macro-regional strategies, talked to each other and said, we need to have a common communication strategy within each strategy, but as well on European level. We need to engage the European Parliament once or twice a year with information through DG Regio and say, and don't be overly complex and say, we are the EUSBSR and then there is the Alpine and the address strategy, but we need to have, we have a common understanding for how should we implement our common goals. And with a third thing within all of the macro strategies, what we realized is that there are local specialities that meet a very different, or not a very, but a different approach on how to tackle them. So it's good that we don't merge each other at one point in time into one macro-regional strategy, but that we stay distinct, because we see within the EUSBSR, we need to have, we are on a different level for innovation, for transport, for bioeconomy than on others, and we need to have different actions and approaches towards these. I have to say, we this year now had 2 meetings. There will be another one this year. We will continue our exchange and engagement over the years. So we are at the very beginning, and so far it proved to be very fruitful to get positive and negative feedback as well. And we hope to, of course, channel more of our ideas through this filter. I think it's a very useful idea.
Thank you very much. That was important information, I think, to all of us. And before I come to my last point, I'd like to read what Aline Meyer has written. She encourages everybody to find more information on the Baltic Sea Youth Platform on the webpage, which is given here. And also she's introducing the Baltic Sea Youth Camp that is focusing on the Baltic Sea strategy, which is going to happen on 17th of October in connection with the annual forum of the Baltic Sea strategy. So everybody interested, especially the youth, please look at the webpage and please join the event. And definitely do look at, do try to get more involved and become a member of the Baltic Sea Youth Platform. And this is also a request to the more adult audience here to look around in your regions and cities and and inform the young people there that there is such a possibility to be active in this platform with the work groups operating there, and with the voice of the youth being stronger and stronger in it. So thank you, Aline, for stressing this. The last thing that I would like to say at this point, because we have come to the time where we should have a break, I think we have deserved it. I'd like to mention the event that is to happen on October the 6th, also in connection with the annual forum of the Baltic Sea Strategy. And it is a workshop aiming to discuss the possible formats, actions and measures to undertake for further development of cooperation between multi-level stakeholders in the EU and the northwestern Russia. This was supposed to be the topic and stronger oriented discussion for today. We hadn't done that. We just mentioned several things, but I think that at this workshop there will be more information, and that it is organized on the basis and as the results, if I may say so, of the stakeholders meeting and sessions on SDGs, which took place during the Forum Strategów in St. Petersburg in 2019. So I think it's going to be one of the highlights of the discussion prior to the annual forum of the Baltic Sea Strategy, and definitely of interest to everybody who thinks that we all should be on board for the better Baltic Sea region. At this point, I'd like to thank everybody, thank the speakers, thank you Simon and Fiona, and the previous speakers also. Thank you the audience, the participants for being with us. And now we will be having a longer break to get some rest from the screens and grab coffee or maybe something more concrete. We would like to invite you back slightly before 2:30, and we would like to invite you to use this time also to visit our exhibition, because this platform allows to have such an arrangement. So if you click on Expo, you will see the virtual booths there, and several institutions, organizations, and projects have accepted our invitation and are present there. So please do visit those exhibitions and use the contacts that are there also. I'm sure you will find many interesting things there to follow on. So thank you everybody for now, and let's meet again in more or less an hour and a half, which means slightly before 2:30, before that visiting the exhibitions. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
And you can also use this networking area also to meet other participants of the conference. It's the new method of networking online, so you may just try it.